Hello and welcome to week two. I'm really pleased to see all of you getting used to the mural tool. I understand there are a few hiccups and I appreciate everybody letting me know. I do want to continue with mural for a lot of different reasons, one of which might be just apparent by looking around. What we're dealing with right here is unstructured content. There's a little bit of organization. I was talking earlier about the outline here, which is different areas where we're kind of roping in some of the action. But to be honest, going through and being able to pick out and understand different points of view, different perspectives, there's a lot of different layers to it. And the reason why we're using this tool is to be able to understand and kind of come up with methods that we're all going to try to figure out about how to make sense and organize the content, which is, of course, part of the goal of the course. So I do appreciate the ability of you all to learn the tool and to try to puzzle over these techniques, because they are going to, I think, play a big role as we learn later on how to organize a little bit more of a understandable or a more curated piece of content, which is the goal of this week. We're going to get started. So right now we're going to talk a little bit about week two. Let me just get over to week two. So week two is not as heavy in the kind of contribution you need to make in mural, because we do have at the end of this week a assignment due, and that's going to be done in Airtable, which I'm going to show you in just a second. But the assignments this week are a little bit lighter. Basically, what you want to do is to understand what is content, and basically when you look at a group of data in a table, you consider these things to be related to each other, but a lot of times we're not as familiar with the other parts of the content. And what the first exercise is to do is to go to Twitter and start to search. And in searching, I'd like you to take a look at and use some of the other data they keep about a tweet. So I think many of you may be familiar with Twitter. If you're not, you will be a little bit. You'll get a little bit of an insight into what Twitter's all about. And Twitter's tweets are usually 144 characters. Maybe they're a little bit more now, and they're short. And there's hashtags, which is a whole nother subject. But underneath it, there's time, date, place. There's a lot of metadata or data that goes along with the tweet. And so the experience I'd like you to try out is to use some of that data to be able to locate or find tweets other than by the content within them. So that's this little exercise here, just to get used to that. And then I'd like you to just share that search by taking that URL and just drag it into Mural. And if you'd like to, put a little comment at the bottom as to why you found this interesting, or what you were able to discover by doing this little exercise. And then there's three. I'm going to share my own experience in trying to organize some data. My interest is and was perfume ingredients, trying to make perfume. So there's a little bit of sharing here of how I did it, just for those of you who want to kind of follow in my footsteps. This is a more complex way of doing assignment one. There's also simpler ways. In fact, I lay them all out here, which is number one is the recommended way. Two, if you want to try doing something custom, you can do it this way. If you're actually quite good at this, you can get your data from JSON, which I explain very briefly, but it's just basically another way to get a table from somewhere. And so these are outlined. And then finally is where you can share your work in progress. We've got a link right here. Someone is going to do restaurants. So that's great. So someone's interested in restaurants. And the real thing I'm hoping for is that you find a topic and data that gets you jump started, but there's a topic that you're familiar with or interested enough in. As we expand this data set to include more items, it can help you at least keep your eyes. We're not doing something completely outside of your realm or anything esoteric. And because in this course we are all working individually, once again, we're going to see a lot of examples. So The way it's going to work is some people will contribute earlier in the week. Those, I think, because of the amount there, I'll probably we'll all have a little bit more discussion about those early entries. I hope that those early entries and the discussions are able to help people who are going to work on this later in the week, because as the week gets longer, more people submit, and that's more to go through. So there's a little bit of let's call it cadence to the course that we're all going to get used to. I hope it's going to work for everyone, but I'm going to do my best to keep up. Now, speaking of Airtable, so in this case, Airtable is where you can just copy and paste data into a base that you create here. In this case, I've got quite a few. I can share some of them with you. For example, here's one about shoes, where you can see that there's a bunch of data and names. And what we're really interested in is having something to start with. So in this case, it's pretty easy to understand. There's a description, there's a size, there's a width. And what we'll do as we move forward is start to see, do we have enough data to be able to create any kind of groupings? And that'll be coming up over the next 3 weeks. So right now, we just want something to start with. There are also plenty of templates in here. Not all of these are going to be helpful, but they are a good place to start to just look, because they start out with some content that you can take a look at. So in this case, if you're launching a product, you can try this template. You add the template to your base, and then you can take a look and see, well, in this case, take a look. This has already been sorted, and it already has some filters applied to it. Let's remove those. We'll remove that grouping. There we go. So now we see the feature status, launched. So this is a pretty good start if you're trying to understand what kind of data you might need to get started to organize something later on. So this is a great start. There might be several different tabs. At the moment, don't worry about joining more than one table. We just want one table, a flat table, let's call it, to start with. And in this case, I could take this over, and if I copy the URL and bring it over the Spring, if I paste the URL in here, let's see, Control V, it should give me a nice little preview and say, organize anything. We could say my subject is, what was it again? It was called product launch. Oops, typing. And I'm interested in this because there we go. And that's pretty much week 2. What you will do is take that URL, however, and go into Canvas. So let's go to Canvas. And you will submit it by Monday as your assignment number 1. So all I'm looking for in assignment number 1 is the URL. I think I'll get the idea from Mural, why it's interesting to you, but if you want to add a small piece of comment in the submission area of Canvas, that's fine too. I'm more concerned just about this journey and you sharing your journey with us over the course of the week. So that's week 2. I know it's a lot to do. Hopefully I've given you a good feeling that it's not as hard as it looks. I'll also say I haven't gone through the tutorial, but the tutorial up here is that you can go to any site using import.io, and you can just grab the data from it. That's pretty exciting. I'd give it a try. I will say that what you see on a site isn't always all of the data necessary to make it work, but I think it's a great start just to see how the web consists of lots and lots of data. So, hope that gets you started. Be on Mural and look forward to your contributions, and thank you so much.